Welcome to the First Time Homebuyer Workshop with Julie Marion. Today we're talking about tenants in common. We have been exploring how you will hold your property on your deed to your new home. We define joint tenants, tenants in the entirety, and today it's tenants in common. As always, I am not a lawyer, and any legal advice or circumstances special to you, you absolutely need to talk with a licensed lawyer. The purpose of this is just to let you know that you have options and you need to delineate your desires so anyone you hire applies the best strategy for you. True story here. True story. A husband and wife that were never going to have children were buying a house, and she was the one on the mortgage and she was the one bringing the down payment. However, he was on the deed. Well, come to find out after closing, she wasn't really the one bringing the down payment. It was her dad. So think about this as we discuss tenants in common today. Now, if there are guys listening to this and you are offended by this she, just flip it and put he in place of she. We are just illustrating a situation here, and it's super annoying that this stuff isn't even spoken about at closing. There's more time chatting about interest rates and closing costs than how you hold your property, even though the way people hold title to their property is just as important and has just as many financial circumstances. Yet it's swept under the carpet, which is bad. All right, tenants in common. Here's the technical definition. It is a category which people can hold land and ownership by two or more people with no right of survivorship. This is huge. Therefore, each person owns his or her share of the whole. There's no survivorship. This is key. So questions here, and then we will unpack this term fully. Can married couples hold property as tenant in common? Yes, they can. Can two or more single people or married people hold property as tenants in common? Yes, they can. Can a partnership hold property as tenants in common? Yes, they can. What if you are a widower and you have children and you want to remarry? Think about a relationship or your relationship that you're in if you're buying a property with someone else and God forbid you or the other person you're buying this property with passes away. How will the property ownership rights be handled? Let's take an example. Imagine four friends buying a building. Keeping it simple, it's a 4-unit apartment building, and each person gets one unit. Easy, right? One person passes away, and then that unit goes to whomever that owner decides with their death instructions. Simple, right? Well, it can get more complicated. Say it's a husband and wife, as in my intro, and the wife passes away and the husband says, "It's mine. We bought it together." And then in the example I gave, what if the family of the wife says, "Not so fast, Mr. Husband. Her father gave her that money to buy that place, so her portion comes to our family." Ew, right? But then the husband has been paying the bulk of the mortgage. Getting sticky, right? Now, typically husbands and wives don't hold property as tenants in common because tenancy in common is a situation where two or more unrelated individuals purchase property together. That protects each owner's stake in the property. This ensures that their own heirs will receive their share of the property after they die, rather than passing it to the other owners of the purchase. But what if you're not a heterosexual couple and live in a state that doesn't recognize gay marriage? Not so easy, right? Or a married couple with no children. In the joint tenancy content piece, I gave an example of a vacation house. So let's do that again here. Say there are 4 sisters that buy a vacation house. Would it be a good idea to hold the property as joint tenants or tenants in common? The pros of holding property in this sort of arrangement, well, I can think of 5 pros. Number 1, this form of ownership where 2 or more individuals own an equal or unequal share of the property. So let's say someone can own 2/3 of the property and you own 1/3 or vice versa. And in this scenario, it could be really beneficial. Say you bought a property with a sibling or a good friend and neither of you could completely do it on your own, but together you could. And then you can work out the details as to what happens in the future. Say one person moves away or the other person can buy them out or they can sell their interest to another person. This way you're building equity rather than just having a rent expense. I would say, as with all business transactions, the devil's in the details. So talk about worst case scenario with your potential partners and your friends. That's where it's going to get sticky. Another pro is that it's the most flexible arrangement for each party involved. Each co-owner can buy and sell and bequeath their personal share of the property interest without affecting the other tenants. The third pro is it allows persons without financial means to purchase an entire property on their own to still own an undivided and transferable share of a property. The fourth benefit would be tenancy in common is also generally allows more tenants to be added over time. Typically, properties have mortgage payments, insurance, property tax, maintenance. So the fifth benefit is that dividing all of these payments, all these expenses, makes investing in real estate more affordable for individuals. Keep in mind, however, that every borrower will sign a loan agreement, which means that your lender can gain control of the entire property if a default occurs. This is also where you need to know for your state if you are in a judicial or non-judicial foreclosure process, and that's coming in a future content piece. So those are the 5 pros in my mind. Flexible, transferable ownership, dividing the bills, unequal ownership interest, and you can add additional owners. Each tenant in common is an asset of the co-owner, right? So it's a benefit, and with a benefit comes a liability as well. So each co-owner is liable for all the debts of the other co-owners. So you must also worry about the other co-owners' creditors in addition to your own. So this means liens can be placed on the property. And that's why when we cover the definition of homestead and liens, you're going to want to pay attention. Now, the cons of tenancy in common, I can be summed up in 3 bullets. Number 1, sometimes a co-owner may not share in the ongoing costs. Say they default, or they are late, or they're partially pay, or and it can cause tensions in financial situations. So this needs to be sorted out ahead of time. What you could do is put a budget together and plan for property tax increases and insurance increases. Another con is one of the owners may want to sell while the others don't. Say a bunch of friends buy a place and then one of the owner's life changes. They could rent out their portion unless the loan says it must be owner occupied, or they could sell it, but say the other owners don't like the potential buyer. Maybe that buyer is not financially stable enough, or maybe their budget is so tight, one owner's life changes and forces everyone else to sell. That pro of collectively buying now just turned into a con very quickly. Again here, you need to be realistic. You need a realistic budget, heavy on the realistic. The third con is co-owning may affect your future borrowing power. Some lenders see the whole co-ownership loan as your responsibility, not just your share of the loan. So say 4 single guys buy a place and then 2 decide they want to cash out and buy a new home with their fiancés. Some lenders may not look at your borrowing capability favorably because they view that loan in total. Now to head this off, when buying, you have to think about your life stage and your budget. We talk about this a lot in our paid class, but you can do this to some extent on your own. You have to be really honest with yourself and know your financials very well, because just as there are benefits of tenancy in common, it's imperative to consider the risk factors. And another key point is to know how long you will hold the property and know the amortization schedule well. We cover amortization schedule in another content piece, and how you pay back the loan will be very key down the road. I am not a huge fan of selling real estate because it's one of the best hedges against inflation. And how are you really going to create wealth is to hold real estate over time. So that's why I'm really hyper on amortization schedules. You have to look at this as an investment and what will it do for me and how much will it cost me over the next 15 to 30 years. Get on board with everybody who's going to be a co-owner and you'll have a great experience. But be honest with yourself. I saw this ad recently. The worst thing you can do is believe the lies you tell yourself. When holding property, think worst case scenario And do you like what you see? If you do, tenancy in common may be the best option for you. And if not, then choose another vehicle. Careful analysis is crucial. There you have it, this acorn of knowledge. If you stick around, it's going to help you immensely when you buy your first house. Now, I have been getting some questions about this channel and if the information is in our free class, the Home Buying Chaos Unwrapped, or if it's in the First Time Homebuyer Workshop, our premier paid class, and it's not. Everything here is not repeated in the other classes. The mini class, Home Buying Chaos Unwrapped, I'm explaining about how the industry is organized, and in the paid class, we're focused on you and your home buying journey. So this is just extra. There's a ton to know, and you won't need everything here, but knowledge is power, and I want you to be in the driver's seat so we can annihilate and destroy first-time home buyer remorse. Homework. Yes, I know, we assign homework here. So talk about these definitions and settle on how you think you would like to hold the property. And then come back to us and join us for more savvy tips. From the team at the First Time Homebuyer Workshop with Julie Marion, bye for now.